Hey everybody, what's up? I'm going to show you how to wire a hazard switch into a bike that doesn't have a hazard switch. You can see a lot of them do, the larger ones, but this small bike doesn't have such a thing. Let me show you what the hazard switch looks like. So it's something that you can buy online. You know, it's basically just a switch that comes with 3 wires. And then you might be wondering, like, how the hell do I get it into the bike? Well, let me explain. This blinker switch is actually connected to a 3-wire output back here. And so when 12 volt from the battery goes to one side, then one side blinks. When it goes to the other, then the other side blinks. So all we have to do is make it go to both sides at once, and then both are going to blink. So that's what this wire does. Super simple. So what you're going to need for this, first thing you'll need is a soldering iron of some sort. And then you're going to need some actual solder. Yeah, I just got some simple solder. I mean, it can be whatever kind of solder. Some electrical tape, and then some zip ties to play nice with the electrical tape and make sure everything's mostly weatherproof after you're done, because you don't want any shorts. So step 1 is just to do whatever you need to do to get this back panel off of your bike so you can see all the stuff. And most importantly, you want to uncover the wires that go to that. Now that you got everything off, depending on what kind of bike you have, it's going to look different. But I have a cluster here of multiple different instruments, so because of that, there's a lot of wires going in. However, you want to look for 3, and of course I could disassemble this, but it just takes a lot of time. Now if I shine a light in there, and you can barely see those 3 metal soldering connections, and if you look at those wires, it's the light gray, the orange, and the light blue. Those are the 3 wires that are connected up there, right over there. So those are the 3 we got to short. The other one goes to the horn, and that goes to the high beam switch. So if we're looking at our stack, that's orange, and then light blue, and then light gray. Because white, dark blue, and green, and then there's purple. Those are going to the other things. We don't want to mess with that. So now, really, it's simple. You got to splice in on one of each of those 3 wires. You got to splice in these wires, and all that this button does when you press it is it just shorts out all 3, so everything will start blinking together. The tricky part is, well, first, where are you actually going to put this? And for me, I think I'm going to make a hole in here, and I'm going to put it right there so that the wires are sticking in, and then this thing is sticking out, so you can just push it. And then as for getting these wires in, I'll show you how to do that in a second with your soldering iron. So a couple different ways to do it. Some people will say just snip the wire and then use like a brush or something, or not a brush, but like a piece of a plier or whatever, scissors to get the coating off. And what I actually do is I just kind of gently, so as soon as you touch that, it's going to start burning it, and it's going to turn that rubber or plastic or whatever it is that's covering that into some sort of paste. And if you just do that, you're going to expose the wires. Sorry for the blurriness there. If you just do that, you're going to just expose the wires as you just brush on it, right? So eventually you get the wires exposed, and then you got to put solder on there and just connect directly to that. All right, that's what it looks like once you've got that wire exposed. It's not fully exposed, but it's enough to just put some solder on there, and then you got a connection. So now I got my splice points. Just by rubbing that away, I don't even have to cut the wires or anything. I can just put solder directly on these, and now I'm going to try to get this switch anchored so I can get these guys ready to be connected. So you could cut this, or like, I don't know if you had pliers or something, but you can actually just use your soldering iron here and just like, it's not going to be very pretty, but it is going to work. Just do this, and then your plastic is going to start melting. And then as it melts, it's going to make a hole, you know? So if you've lined this up to where this is where you want the switch to be in, just burn the plastic through until you get, you know, a hole, and then you can widen it and see, look, now it's coming through on the other side. So that's nifty. Just don't breathe this in. So there you go. You know, you just get a nice hole. You can control the size and everything. It's kind of perfect. This one, the plastic, when it burns, it smells exactly like ice cream. So, you know, just don't smell it too much because it's probably, you know, it's going to give you cancer. But that, right? So where's my... So, you know, more or less, we want it to be stable in there. So now I can already see that probably I'm going to need to make it a bit wider so that it can fit in there. But that's the general idea. Alright, I actually ended up putting it on the top plate because otherwise this thing was going to conflict with that, so whatever. But the same principle, you know, I was able to put this in there, and that's pretty solidly in there because I was able to melt the plastic around it. And I'll put some liquid tape around here because since this is going to be sitting up like this, if rain comes down here, the liquid tape will help water not seep in as much. I mean, even if it does, it's not going to be a problem, but it could eventually lead to, you know, more water in this area, which is not the best thing. You know, sometimes things can get corroded or whatever. So as for these, we're going to cut them down to size a little bit. So, you know, maybe like up here. And then in order to get the actual wires to show, you can just, I mean, you know how to do this part. This part is simple, right? So I usually pre-solder the wires, like I put solder on the wires because now they can't flay around and they're not all fragile. And as soon as solder touches solder, it will stick, so it'll make this way easier. All right, now I got those points soldered too. And, you know, I tried to get the solder to wrap all the way around the exposed wire because you don't want to bottleneck the connection anywhere. Technically it could heat up and stuff, I don't know, so this is good enough. All right, cool. So our welds, I mean, obviously not very pretty, but you know, they're connected and it's pretty strong. So now it's connected to this, so now the hazards are actually enabled. If I turn the key, and as long as these, I keep them to make sure they don't short out, and I press this button, then let's test to see if we get hazards. Yep, so they're not touching. Flip on the switch. Okay, and if I just... Okay, they're blinking. Wait. Actually, they are working as intended, but this bolt just happened to be burnt out, so good thing we saw that. Let's switch this out. Well, that's why the front blinker wasn't blinking, because I accidentally disconnected the fuse. But apart from that, the hazards are working, everything's working fine. So let's put this fuse back together, let's weatherproof these connections, and then get this back on here, and then yeah. Couple of zip ties and a bunch of electrical tape later, the connections are all taped up, and they're taped up well enough that even if this got drenched in water, it's not going to short out or anything. And you know, the tape is covering everything. I didn't put any liquid tape because the zip ties are really going to keep that there pretty much permanently, even if the tape itself withers, and it's going to work out. Now the wires are, you can see they're all bundled up, but they're well protected and plugged into the connector right there. So it's all coming together now when we turn on the bike. Oh, look at that. See? So, oh god damn it, what the hell is happening here again? Flip. Okay, it was a skill issue. This thing, I tried to reinstall it and it pushed the bulb out just a little bit. Yeah, see? Bulb is kind of finicky. If I move it just a little bit too much, it will stop. So anyways, that's a different issue, but the hazards are working. That's it. Now it's all put together again, and we do this, we go here, press this button, boom, we got hazards. So not so difficult, a little bit of wiring.